Coming to you from the Deep South, this is the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast. High impact leadership is not reserved for leaders, and it has nothing to do with your position, title, or rank. However, it does have everything to do with your character. It's time to climb to the next level and beyond, personally and professionally. Now, let's start making it happen with your host, Mac Story.
Hello, and thanks for listening to the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast today. So today I want to start off with just a small announcement. I got a new book just released recently. It's actually a volume 2 of a book that I already have. This one was a special request from a client, Mr. Jason Denham, Vice President of Electrical Construction out at Kilgore Industries in the state of Texas. And he used my Blue Collar Leadership Toolbox Tips. That's the name of the book. The subtitle is 60 Micro Lessons for Maximizing Your Influence. And that book's full of 60 lessons. They're just 2-page short lessons. And you can cover it in a minute, 1 to 2 minutes with your team. And it's actually intended for like a team leader or supervisor, crew leader, that kind of person, to actually kick off a daily or a weekly lesson. I think Jason's team does it once a week. They do it as part of a safety meeting, or maybe it's once a day, part of a safety meeting. I can't really remember. Anyway, I had lunch with him over Christmas. We always meet over in Auburn, Alabama, have a Christmas lunch, and he requested that I write him a second book. He calls me Mr. Mac. He said, Mr. Mac, we finished that first book, and it was good, and it worked like it's supposed to, and I need another one. So I made that happen. So Volume 2 has just released. Volume 1 was based on principles out of my book, Blue Collar Leadership, Leading from the Front Lines, and Blue Collar Leadership and Teamwork. This book that I'm doing the series on with you now. So each one of those books has 30 chapters. So I took a main principle from each one of the 30 chapters from each of those books for a total of 60 and created Volume 1. And Volume 2 is based on principles out of my book, Defining Influence. Increasing your influence increases your options. So that's got a heavy focus. Volume 2's got a heavy focus on building trust and increasing your influence and kind of the core, the deep stuff. And so if you hadn't checked out Volume 1, you might want to check it out. If you have, you need to know Volume 2 is out there now. So you can get that on Amazon, or you can order it through our website. Anyway, today we're on Part 7, Trait 7 of this 30-part series on my book, Blue Collar Leadership and Teamwork, 30 Traits of High-Impact Players. And today's trait is be focused. There's a lot of folks out there. I hate it for you if you got to work for them, or with them, I should say. If you're working with team members who are not focused, they're kind of all over the place. That's not a high impact team member. That's a low impact team member. And what's worse than that is if you report to a leader who's not focused. They're going to have you running around doing all kinds of things. Get you started on one thing and then snatch you off that to do something else, and then snatch you off that to do something else, and it never seems you get anything finished, and they're hollering and screaming about all of them. So if that's you, I wish it wasn't, but you take all this stuff I'm teaching you and fire that leader and go find you a better one. That's what you can do if you create options for yourself. So I want to open with a quote today from Truett Cathy. Truett Cathy has passed away. I think it was in 2012, but he was the founder of Chick-fil-A. He created a very unique organization. And if you listen to me long enough, you know I think a lot about their model, the way they operate their business, their culture, how the employees treat each other, how they treat the clients and the guests in the stores. Everything about them. They got a high degree of character development within that organization, and they hire high impact, high character people, and they do a good job of retaining them, unless they're young folks, and then they're just trying to grow and develop those people so they can go out in the world and do what's best for them. They don't try to keep them under their wing. All right. Truett Cathy said this. He says, winners concentrate on winning, Losers concentrate on getting by. That's just some straight talk right there. Winners concentrate on winning. Losers concentrate on getting by. And I'm going to tell you what, there's a lot of people out there in the workforce, all different levels. I used to think they were only on the front lines till I started climbing my way up. And then I realized they're everywhere at every level. They're even at the top. And what I'm talking about is a lot of people in life, they're not trying to get ahead, they're trying to get by. Every level they get out, those people, every level they reach, they're still trying to get by. Some of them, they get promoted all the way from the bottom to the top, and somehow they do it with a bare minimum, just trying to get by. I don't understand it, but I really do. It's who you are, is who you attract kind of stuff. People who barely got by are up above, raising those people up because they don't want somebody who's trying to get ahead, because then they feel threatened. So if you ever wonder why all these, using Truett Cathy's words, why all these losers are in the chain of command, it's usually because there's a loser up above them, and they're okay with it. That's the only reason. That's the only reason there's bad people on a team, is those leaders above are okay with it, because they could do something about it. They choose not to. And they'll walk around, they'll tell everybody, they'll sugarcoat it, they'll polish it up, try to make it look nice. Everybody knows what's going on. Everybody knows there's a top leader up above that says, hey, this is the minimum required to be on the team. And whatever that is, it's obvious by all the people who work there. So when we talk about being focused, the subtitle of this chapter is Minimizing Your Distractions Maximizes Your Results. And you got to figure out what that means for you as an individual. If you want to be a high-impact team player, you got to minimize your distractions so you maximize your results. Because high-impact team players, they're getting results, not just for themselves, but for the team. And not just for their team that they're actually associated with directly, but for the bigger team. I may be on a small team within a department, but I'm making it happen for me. I'm making it happen for my team. I'm making it happen for my department. And then as a whole, we're a team that's part of a larger organization, the entire organization. If you're a high impact team member, a team player, you making it happen. And the only way you making it happen is you got to get rid of your distractions. You're not a time waster. You don't run around at work wasting your time. You ain't scrolling your phone. You living life on purpose, because you're concentrated on winning, not on getting by. You're trying to get ahead. Distractions don't do nothing but slow you down. And there's plenty of distractions in the world without you having to generate your own. So if you can get yourself squared away, you still gonna have to deal with a lot of distractions, but you ain't gonna be distracted with your own distractions while you're dealing with the world's distractions. So are you playing to win, or are you playing not to lose? I'm talking to you. Are you playing to win, or are you playing not to lose? You know, if I was in person asking somebody that question, I bet over 90% of people would say I'm playing to win. But if you could hover around, if you could fly around like a drone over them all day, watch what they were actually doing all day and all night, 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365, wonder if you'd think they were trying to win. Or were they playing not to lose? See, a lot of people are playing not to lose, and they think that's playing to win. There's a big difference. So when you're playing to win, you're focused on the big picture. You know who you are, and you know where you are. And then here's a big difference. You also know who you want to become and where you want to be as an individual, a team, or as an organization as a whole. Because the goal is to have a a high performance team, which means you got a team full of high impact players. But you got to focus on developing yourself as an individual. If you're a formal authority leader, you got to focus on developing all the individuals on your team. You got to get as many of them on board as possible. And that's not going to happen if you're a leader and you're playing not to lose. Because if you're a formal authority leader and you're playing not to lose, you're just trying to do the minimum required. If you're a high impact leader and you're playing to win, a formal authority leader, you're playing to win, you're doing far more than is required. And the number one thing required is to develop the people. You gotta help people be high impact individuals, and then you gotta help them learn. On top of that, they got a foundation now to become high impact team players, and then you can teach them to be high impact leaders of other people. So it's kind of like a 3-tiered system right there. And in my world, that's blue collar leadership, leading from the front lines. That's your book for the individual. This book I'm talking about today, Blue Collar Leadership and Teamwork, that's the one for building high impact players on top of their foundation of being a high impact individual. And then Blue Collar Leadership and Supervision, that's the one for helping people learn how to lead other people well with a position of authority. But it's about setting that position of authority to the side and leading with moral authority instead of formal authority. So there's a series on those books, if I haven't told you yet. Blue Collar Leadership, Leading from the Front Lines, episode 65. Then you know about this series. I'm in the middle of it right now. And then the Supervision book that I would just reference, it starts at episode 111, I believe. So high impact players are focused. You know these folks. If you ever been in a meeting, you know when a high impact player walks into the room. Because, see, they do something different than low impact players. High impact players walk into a room with purpose. You can just tell. These people walk through life with purpose. My mom used to call me one of them, she'd say. I remember being at ball games with her and with my son, watching my son when he was, small and younger. And, middle school, high school kind of stuff. My mom would be there and some guy would be walking through the room. You could tell he's walking with purpose, or, at the football field or at the basketball arena, wherever we were at, somebody else's parents coming through, and she'd see somebody walking, I call walking on purpose. But she'd say, hey, Mac, there goes one of them. He's one of them like you. Well, she's talking about walking with purpose. John Maxwell tells a story about when he was a kid. I think he was trying to get a job at a grocery store, but he didn't get it. And he showed up for the interview, and the store manager had someone else show up at the same time. So there was 2 people there for the same job, John and some other guy. And the store manager, and I'm kind of repeating John's story. It's been quite a few years ago when I heard it, so I might not get it perfect, but I'll get the main point out of it, I promise you. So the store manager gets John and the other guy, or, they're kids then, probably teenagers, and takes them in the store and walks to the back of the store. And, they go through the process and this kind of stuff. And then John didn't get the job. So John he was doing a good thing back then. He followed up, wanted to know why he didn't get the job. He said, well, John, you remember when you got there, you and the other guy, and I took you guys to the back of the store? He said, yes, sir. He said, well, the other young man walked with purpose through the store. You walked down the aisle and you was looking at the ketchup and looking at the mayo and looking at the mustard, and you were all over the place. The other young fella, he was walking with purpose. He said, that's the kind of people I want working on my team. People who live life on purpose. and walk with purpose. I forget what lesson John was teaching when I heard him tell that story. But I used to teach my son the same thing. No matter when he was helping me out and when he was working with me as a lean manufacturing consultant, I remember one day I walked through the shop, through the plant we were supporting, and he was doing a time study or something like that with a team, and he was basically timing a process. I think it was an automated process that he was timing. It didn't matter. I don't remember exactly, but he was out there, recording the operation on a stopwatch over and over. And he was leaned up against a pole. He was doing what he was doing. He was on a mission. He was doing his job, but he had his shoulder leaned up against a pole. I walked over there and said, "Hey, man, when you out here doing this, do it with purpose. Get off the pole." When he was going through training, and he'd be sitting in class, and he was just observing, I always told him, you sit there with purpose. You sit up straight, you be tall, you be on purpose, you be alert. Even if you heard this 1,000 times, people are watching you. Live life on purpose. And I model it. You ever see me, you'll tell I'm on purpose, especially if you walk with me. You be like, slow down. Rhea tells me that 1,000,000 times. Slow down, slow down. And I slow down for like 3 steps, and then I'm back on purpose. Part of that maybe come from the Marine Corps when everything was, go hurry up and wait. I don't know. But I think I was maybe like that before. If I wasn't, I definitely was like that after my time on Parris Island. But anyway, I live my life like that. I walk into a room with purpose. You should too. And if you don't, you'll notice those who do. Everybody notices those who do. But regardless of where they are there for a reason. And that reason is to make an impact. They are playing to win, and they want to be on a team that's playing to win. These players do far more than is required of them. I got a question for you. Are you one of them? You shuffle your feet, drag your feet, walk around with your hands in your pockets, kick back, laid back, or are you on purpose? You sitting up tall, you walking with a steady step. You got your hands out of your pockets because you know how you appear matters. Are you focused? Purpose ought to just be flowing out of you everywhere you go. When I ask every one of these episodes, I try to remember to ask, and I might forget on some of them. But when we're talking about being focused, I always like to help you understand, how much does this matter? How much does it really matter? Remember, every one of these traits matters, and they all matter together. And there's a whole lot of other traits, more than these 30 I'm going to talk about. But here's my question I ask you from time to time throughout this series. Everything's the same. You got 2 rock stars that you could work with. So you're just a team member, and I'm saying, let's say I'm the boss, and I'm saying you get to pick from these 2 people which one you want to work with. Both of them are rock stars, but I got to tell you something. One of them is on purpose. This person going to show up on purpose, ready to go. In every moment of the day, they're going to be on purpose. This other one, well, I don't really know. They show up. They know what they're doing. They're going to tear it up, but they ain't really, they ain't on purpose. They kind of just here. If I'm asking you that, which one you want to work with? See how easy it is when you narrow everything down to one trait so you can see the value of that trait? But see, the thing is, there's never just one trait. There's hundreds, if not thousands, of traits interacting together, being noticed. A lot of people don't even know what they're noticing because they never studied it, so they don't have a name for it. They can't articulate it, but they can see it and they can feel it. So all of these traits, every time I ask you that question and I give you the trait and I give you the opposite of the trait, Every time you're going to say you'd pick the person with this trait. If I said you were going to promote a person and you base it on only on this trait or the opposite, it's always going to be this trait. Or if I say you're going to give a person a raise, it's always going to be the trait I'm talking about, not the opposite. But if I say there's a downturn, you got to let somebody go, which one's it going to be? The one who walks in the room with purpose, or the one that has no focus? They here, they show up, but they ain't got no focus. See how easy it is? You got to learn to do this for yourself so you can understand why you need to adopt, model, and live all these traits. Everybody on your team is watching you. Are you a high-impact team player? Again, everybody says yeah, but their behavior doesn't always say yes. So, because see, low-impact players, they aren't focused. Instead of walking into a room with purpose, they walk into a room hoping to walk out without being assigned a task or being asked to contribute to the conversation. They just kind of there because they got to be there, but they try to sit back, hide out, be quiet, hope they can escape without giving any more responsibility, without being given any more responsibility. They're there because someone told them to be there. They don't want to be there. Those folks, they're playing not to lose. If they was playing to lose, they wouldn't be there. If somebody told them to be there, they'd be like, I ain't coming, boss. No, they're playing not to lose. They're going to do the bare minimum. Somebody told them to be in that meeting. They're going to be there, but they don't want to contribute. They don't want to participate. They're going to appear unfocused, so you won't call on them or you won't try to depend on them to do anything. There's people who do that on purpose, literally. Their purpose is to live life without purpose. They're playing not to lose. They're just happy to have a job, these folks. And their mission is just to keep it. These players do only what's required of them. And like I asked you a moment ago, are you one of them? Surely not if you're listening to my podcast, unless somebody's making you. If somebody's making you, you better check up on some of these things and realize the impact they're having on your career. Because you know that thing I always talk about, positive word of mouth advertisement. If you're not a focused person, you're not getting as much positive word of mouth advertisement as you could be if you were focused. So when you look in the mirror, do you see someone who volunteers for team-based activities and special assignments? Or do you see someone who must be voluntold because they won't volunteer, so they had to be voluntold to participate in team-based activities and special assignments? If you think about book studies, do you volunteer to be on book studies? Do you volunteer to facilitate book studies? And, if you know me, I call those BCL sessions, but it doesn't stand for blue collar leadership. It is a play on the letters, BCL session, but that means building character-based leaders. And there's all kind of ways to do it. You can listen to podcasts as a team, discuss it. You can watch videos as a team and discuss it. You can do book studies. That's the number one thing that most folks are doing. When I reference a BCL session, they're doing book studies. They're using book studies to build character-based leaders. But that question I was asking you, do you see someone, when you look in the mirror, do you see someone who volunteers for these activities, or do you see someone who has to be voluntold? Whatever your answer is, does it increase or decrease your influence with those high-impact leaders and high-impact players at various levels who are ultimately responsible for moving the organization forward? What's the impact? But I'm telling you, no matter what level you're at, you could be entry level, started your job this morning. I'm gonna tell you something. You are ultimately responsible for moving the organization forward. Even if your boss doesn't say that, even if your boss doesn't believe that, You got to know it and you got to believe it. You got to be focused on moving yourself forward, which is going to move the organization forward. Everybody wins. Anne Rand, I don't know if that's the way you say her name, but Ayn Rand or something, I don't know. I read one of her books and I got some quotes from it. This is one of them. I don't necessarily know how to pronounce her name, but I don't care how to pronounce her name. I care about the nugget that I got from her. And in her book, she said, man's basic vice, and it could be a person's basic vice is the act of unfocusing their mind, the suspension of their consciousness, which is not blindness, but the refusal to see. Not ignorance, but the refusal to know. So that's some pretty good stuff right there. That lady's got a popular book. I can't remember the name of it. Oh, Atlas Shrugged. I never read that book. I never will read that book. I don't imagine. You may have, but it's a big, fat, thick book. I started reading it. Somebody recommended it. I turned about 2 pages. I was like, nah, this one ain't for me. But she had another book, and I can't remember the name of it now, but it was an older book, not a popular book of hers, but it was really, really good in some areas. Some of it I didn't agree with, but I got some good nuggets out of that book. She had something in there about an argument from intimidation, and that's a different podcast, but I remember that, and that was some really good stuff. But I want to share a couple of quotes with you as we close up this session. This one here is from Cy Wakeman. I read a book of hers recently. Got a quote out of here on focus from her out of that book. She says, great leaders know and can make it clear that they desire the input of employees who are using their thinking, energy, and expertise to move the work forward. Opinions aren't valuable. Action is. Opinions are usually an attempt to stop the action. Expertise is used to keep it going. Opinions focus on why we can't. Expertise is at play when employees work toward how we can. I like that right there. That's some good stuff. I got a couple more things I want to share with you here. And this is just my stuff, but when we focus on becoming more valuable instead of becoming more successful, others will make you more successful. You need to focus on becoming more valuable. Don't worry about becoming successful. That'll take care of itself. Somebody else will make that easy for you. You just focus on becoming more valuable. Somebody else will focus on making you more successful. It's that simple. But most people focus on success, and they don't get there, or they don't get very far, because they forget to focus on the root cause of true success, which is becoming a person of value. So don't focus on becoming more successful. That's hard. Do focus on becoming more valuable. That's easy. And in this case, when you do the easy thing, you'll become more successful. I think that's put you in position to have a good life. So remember, today, talking about being focused, live life with purpose, walk with purpose, sit with purpose. Everything you do it with purpose. And minimize your distractions so you can maximize your results. Talk to you next time.
Make it happen or someone else will. It might as well be you. Are you serious about taking your career and your life to the next level and beyond? Check out Mac Story's Blue Collar Leadership series books and others, now available on audio, along with paperback and ebooks at Amazon, iTunes, and Audible. Please visit bluecollarleadership.com to learn about Mac's books, programs, special offers, certifications, and more. Thank you for listening to the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast.